Welcome to Next to Madison, a podcast to help you live your best life.
Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of Next to Madison. I'm your host, Madison Malloy, and on this episode, I am sitting down with relationship expert Suzanne Sheppard, who is going to share her amazing Love with Class process with us. It is unbelievable. These steps are amazing, and I feel that when you listen to this and really kind of dive into it, you are going to be very clear on what you are looking for, find out why a certain relationship maybe did not work, or why you may be in that pesky little common situationship that people keep landing their asses into, and how to never end up in one of those. And what does the 90-day rule mean? And how many dates should you go on with either men or women before you're actually going to know what you're looking for? This episode is amazing. So we will be right back with our guest on this episode of Next to Madison right after this brief message.
Hey, it's Madison Malloy. Just wanted to remind you to make sure you grab a copy of my book, Time to Lighten the Fuck Up. It is a great, funny self-help book that is going to help you get out of your own way. I have already helped thousands and thousands of people, and they are on their way to living their dream life, and I want every listener to be able to live their dream life as well. So grab a copy of the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or even the audiobook on Audible. Now back to the show.
We are back with our amazing guest. I'm so excited for this episode. Everybody loves relationship episodes and dating episodes and getting all the questions. And now I actually have an expert that's here. We've had matchmakers who are experts in their own right, but now we've got somebody who's been studying this process, who has 2 very successful books here with us today. And she's going to talk about not only relationships for both men and women, but also her whole process of getting what you want at any time. So with that being said, I'd like to welcome Suzanne Sheppard, relationship expert. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this episode, not only because I personally need your help, but because I feel like everybody else is going to gain from this.
Well, this work that I do is a lot of fun. You know, originally I was a business coach. And if you want to know, you didn't even ask this, but I'm going to offer this.
Okay, perfect.
The way I got started doing this was I was married to the love of my life, but he had PTSD from Vietnam. Mm-hmm. And I eventually did divorce him. And I started dating a young man. He was 18 years younger than me. And his mother and I were the same age, so we didn't date very long, but he went back to his old girlfriend. I watched them have a very dramatic relationship for about 2 years, breaking up, getting back together, getting married, not getting married, getting pregnant, losing a baby, drama.
Yeah.
And after about 2 years of this nonsense, when he and I were friends and I ran into her and she said, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you." And I'm like, "No, you're not. You don't even like me." She said, "Well, you're right. I don't, but you have something I want." And I'm like, "What do I have that you want?" And she said, "The kind of relationship I want to have, and I don't know how to do it, and I want you to teach me." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "I've been watching. Well, I've been his girlfriend and you've been his friend. And it's almost like I've had his body, but you've had his soul. And I want you to teach me how to do that."
Wow.
And I picked my chin up off the floor. I went, "No, I don't trust you. No." But she kept asking. And ultimately what happened is she became my first client, because after I divorced my husband, I took all these relationship courses for myself. I didn't take them to share them with anybody or to do anything with it. But after working with her for 2 years, it was a lot more fun talking about love and sex than it was management and marketing. So I changed.
I like that. That is amazing. Okay, so let's talk about, before we get into like your whole kind of process and the details. You've written 2 successful books. You've sent them to me. I've gone through some of them. I love them. You're going to send me the hard copies because I was about to go to the library and print them out. So let's talk about one of the books, which is How to Get What You Want from Your Man at Any Time.
Well, this is really it's my work. It's all the work that I do. And after I've been coaching for several years, and I actually started doing this kind of coaching in 1998, and I had several clients by then, and they asked me to write it down. So I went, "Oh, okay." I always thought I'd like to write a book anyway. So I did. I wrote it down. And the book is for men and women. It's titled the way it's titled and marketed the way it's marketed because women buy these books and men don't. Men only read the books that women have because they want to know the secrets. But it's for men as well as women. And it does work for both. And the men that have read this book have loved it because it's really about everybody getting what they want.
And that's what everybody wants out of life in general.
And it is. It's about getting what you want in your life, getting what you want in your relationship, getting what you want in love, and it really is about that. And I have a very direct method. I'm very direct. I don't pull punches. I don't hide things. I'm very straightforward in the way that I coach. And I got certified to be a coach. I mean, I was an ER nurse for 40 years.
Wow.
And I did a lot of crisis intervention and that type of stuff. So that part comes naturally to me. And then I got certified to be a business coach and then a life coach. And now I basically focus on relationships and do some business coaching, but that's not my main focus. The main focus is the relationship stuff. And I used to coach couples, but they all ended up getting divorced because I made them tell the truth. And they never should have got married in the first place. So now I only coach single people who've had serial bad relationships with the same person in different bodies.
Yes. And that seems to be a habit because what's the first question that people ask you when you're single? What's your type? I used to have a joke about this in my stand-up where people would say, what's your type? I'm like, I don't know, male, 21 to 55.
Right.
Maybe not that old, 18 to 55.
And the thing is, people it's their other than conscious mind that is attracting these people who are, there's nothing wrong with them. They're just not a good match,
Yeah. And when you and I briefly talked offline, I think I was telling you that I tended to attract either emotionally unavailable men. Yeah, that was primarily what it was. Because I think being aware of, kind of the law of attraction and all the vibration stuff, I've realized that I now know that it's actually me that has the fear of commitment or the fear of intimacy. So I have to work on that because I was attracting what I was.
Exactly.
And I didn't realize it. And I'd be like, oh, they're all unavailable. It's like, wait, so are you. So now I have to work on that.
The interesting thing is people come to me because they want a relationship. And I tell them, the work that I do is transformational work. It really is transformational work. It's getting you to be who you need to be in order to attract who you really want.
Mm-hmm.
And that transformation process it's just the work that I developed with that very first client. That girl was my first client for 2 years. And in the process of coaching her, I developed this system that I still use 30 years later.
Yeah. Well, it is just amazing because sometimes I wonder, most of my girlfriends are married. And it's, how, and they met their partner pretty young. And it's like, how is it so easy for some? And then there's others of us that struggle with it. I don't feel like they had to go through all these mind tricks and dating games. It just happened.
It really is what you learned in the first 7 years of life.
I know, isn't that a bitch?
You learned about relationships in the first 7 years of life, and you aren't really aware of what it is that you learned. And so if you're in a place where you're in a safe environment and happy and wonderful and everything is, peaches and cream and strawberry shortcake, whatever, it's all happiness, you learn that that's how relationships are. If you are in a place where there is any dysfunction, children pick it up and you learn it really early. And that's where you're comfortable. And if there's any dysfunction, the dysfunction will show up because that's what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, no, that's true. It is. It's that first 7 years of life. Mm-hmm. That's why I'm pretty much convinced you can create a billionaire if you start talking to them right out of your vagina.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah. And then you wrote another book called Dating After 40. No more excuses. I recently turned 40 and I'm like, uh-oh. And you're right. For me, I say there's no more excuses because I'm like, either I want to be alone right now
Mhm.
because I'm happy, I'm content, things are going well, I have pure focus, love my friends, love that I can do anything I want to do. So for me, I'm like, I'm dating with a purpose, the purpose of getting married. So if you don't fit into my marriage bucket, you gone. And I'm going to know by the third date,
Right.
maybe the second,
Or before.
hopefully before.
Or
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that's
Part of
my
the process.
my
Well,
intention, you know.
that little book actually was an article that I wrote, and I did it as a just a sample. I wanted to see what it was like to write a little mini book. So it's a little tiny 4-inch by 6-inch book. I use it as a business card. I just give them away to people, and they get a sense of my sense of humor, the way that I talk to people, the directness and all that, and what it is that I'm talking about, because it's really the things that stop people, the excuses I hear. Oh, I can't date because of this, that, or whatever. All men are scared of marriage, and you only meet party boys, or all women are only after a meal ticket, or whatever stupid reasons, that
Yeah.
they're using to keep themselves from putting themselves out there.
Yeah. No, it's very true. So
So
it's
this little book, it's only like 70 pages, I think. I don't know, 70 pages. And I use it as a business card.
yeah, I liked it because it was very true. It kind of broke all those myths that we kind of have been conditioned or programmed to
It's
believe.
all the stories. It's the stories that you tell yourself
Yeah,
about why you can't have what you want.
exactly. No, that's very true. So I want to talk about you have a very famous process. You speak all over on stages about this process called your love with class process.
Right.
And this is fascinating. So buckle up. This is going to be good. All right. So let's hear
So the Love with Class is in the first book. It's in the How to Get What You Want book. But I wrote that book in 2003. I really didn't form the process till around 2010. But everything in the process is already in the book. It's just not in the order that it is in the process.
Okay.
I went to a seminar and somebody said, do you do the same thing with your clients all the time? I said, yeah, absolutely. And they said, you need a system. You need a 5-step or a 7-step system, and you should name it. And in that seminar with about 300 people, I wrote this down in about 5 minutes because it was so ingrained in me of what I do. And I called it Love with Class. C stands for clarity, which is the very first step, which means you have to know what you want. What do you want in your life? What do you want in your relationship? What are you putting up with? What are you tolerating? And what is it that's going to make you say, I'm getting what I want? And that's the first step that I do with every single client. And it's just a little like self-awareness thing. I have them do a toleration list. I have them do some, what does success mean to you? And basically organize your values so you know which values are important to you. And that's step 1. Step 2 is called Love Yourself. That's the L in class. I had a little trouble naming it because the process itself is about changing your perception of who's out there for you. It is the actual transformation work that I do with people. And what I tell all of my single clients is if you want to change who you're attracting, you have to change who you are. So I want you to go out and meet 40 new prospects. 40. And I don't mean date them. I don't mean have sex with them. I mean go out and find out, who are they? What gets them up in the morning? What turns them on? What are their highest values? How do they really treat the opposite sex or whatever sex they're looking for? And literally I tell them, if you meet the people that you're normally attracted to, turn around and go the other way. Do not Engage with the ones that you normally do, because if those are the ones that are unavailable and the ones that have not been working for you, expand your perception. If you start out open like this and you get disappointed, and you're looking for somebody that can be put in this little space here, and they don't exist. So what I do with people is I say, I want you to meet one of every color, one of every race, one of every nationality, younger, older, blue collar, white collar, a billionaire, a homeless person. I mean, literally stretch way beyond, and have a conversation, an intimate conversation with them. And what I mean by an intimate conversation, I don't mean about sex. I mean an intimate conversation about who are you.
So, okay, so that's a question then. What are some good first date topics? Because I feel like people just kind of scratch the surface. They're going, okay, am I attracted to you? And then it's, how was your day? What do you do for work?
Ask silly questions. What gets you up in the morning?
Okay, so I like that. What gets you up in the morning?
What turns you on? What are you passionate about in your life? What means the most to you in your life?
Okay.
How do you treat your mother and your sisters and your exes? Those are the kind of conversations that you have to have.
And have you found or have you heard from your clients who have done this that sometimes people are going, yo, it's the first date, settle down there?
They're not who you're looking for.
That's true if they can't answer those questions. I like that. So just to repeat, some great first date openers. You guys can always replay this episode. But so yeah, what gets you up in the morning? What turns you on? What are your biggest passions? What means the most to you? How do you treat the women in your family? How is your relationship like with your parents?
And the men say, how do you treat the men in your family? This works for men too.
Yeah.
Just I coach men much differently than I coach women, because you know that women do the choosing and women do the ending of all relationships.
And most women that are listening to this are going, well, that's not true. I got dumped. But it's something happened.
They only got dumped if they decided they didn't want them.
Oh, yes, interesting.
That
Conscious
unconscious message,
sabotaging.
the unconscious message comes across. It's like, this is not what I want. And it comes across. And so then these men, you think they're not perceptive, but they are. They are in their own way perceptive. They just don't talk about it. Men don't like to talk about relationship. Women love to talk about relationship. Men don't like to talk about relationship at all.
Yeah.
They just want it to be.
Yeah. I remember I tried to have a deep conversation with somebody I was potentially dating. And I was trying to ask some of these questions. And he was very like surface level. And then he just said, and I go, okay, so is there anything you want to know about me? And he was like, I don't get to know people that way. I have to just hang out with them. And I'm like, this guy didn't care. He just wanted to see my vagina.
Right.
This is only objective. And he made that very clear. And I'm like, I'm out.
I tell my clients, look, you're not dating these guys. You don't care what they think about you. You only care what you think about them.
That's where the 40
So
days.
remember that when you're doing this exercise, this step of the process, this Meet 40, you keep a journal, you write everything down. You don't listen to that little ghost on your shoulder that's saying, is he going to call me? Do you think he likes me? Because you don't care.
It's irrelevant, right? Because this is all about you and
you are doing research.
Yeah.
You're just doing research. So you don't get to date any of these people. My clients, they don't get to date any of these first 40 people at all. They have to dismiss each one of them. They have to say, thank you for the information. I'm so happy to meet you. And if they want to ask you out, you have to say no. And you actually have to say, can I get your info? And maybe I'll call you later on, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm really doing a research project.
That's going to send a man on his freaking head. He's going to be like, excuse me? What? I feel like I could do this and like do it on my TikTok, and I'll like tag you. I'll be like, all right, I am doing Susan Sheppard's challenge, and here's my TikTok thing. And then I'll
What
just
happens is the first time you do it, you're kind of like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm crazy asking all these questions and stuff. And then it becomes fun.
yeah.
And it really becomes fun because you're really just trying to expand your perception of who's out there. And you meet people of different cultures and different races and different mindsets and different upbringing. And I can tell you example after example after example. It takes too much time to do it right now, but of people who ended up with someone way outside their expectations, including myself, including me.
So what happens if you're on date 20 and you're like, oh my God, this is the one? You just have to be like, I'll call you when I'm done.
Yep.
Do you tell them,
wait,
hey, I'm doing
let me
this?
tell you something. Here is a pearl. If it's the right one, he'll wait forever.
It's true. So you don't have to play games or anything. And that leads me to the biggest question that I ask every relationship expert, because I think it's so important and I want women to hear it because I need women to close their fucking legs, is when you sleep with a person. Because you know the whole thing that's going on now, you see it all over TikTok, you see it all over social media, the situationship and how it's sending a tailspin for women in their heads going, I don't know what we are. It's like, won't put a label on it, but we're this. And I'm like, it's probably because you fucked them before you put the fact that you were in a relationship. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't care this much. Because when we sleep with them, we get so emotionally attached. So it's like, don't sleep with them until they say, I want to marry you.
My rule of thumb, you never sleep with somebody until you've been intimately connected with them. And I do not mean sexually, intimately interacting with them for at least 90 days.
So you can make out with them, but you can't put their pee-pee in your mouth.
Right.
Okay.
No sex. No sex.
And like, can they finger blast you?
Nope.
Nope. Okay.
People break the rules. People break the rules, but I tell them no.
But you can make out with them.
The reason is this: the minute you sleep with them, your whole mindset changes.
It does. It's that's why we call it a mind fuck.
Right.
Literally.
So if you want to know if this person is interested in who you are as a human being, you don't fuck them, because if you fuck them, then that's all they're thinking about.
It's so true. So if they keep trying to, bring you home, go home with you, or bring you to
just tell them, say, look, I have a rule. I don't sleep with somebody unless I know I want to keep them in my life.
I like, repeat that again, because that is worth repeating so people get that ingrained in their head.
I don't sleep with anybody unless I know I want to keep them in my life. It doesn't mean marry them.
Powerful.
It doesn't mean marry them.
Yeah.
It just means you're somebody worth knowing. You're somebody worth sharing my body with.
Yeah. And this will end all situationships. Yeah. For the ladies listening. There is no more, I'm in a situationship. You did that to yourself. That's your faultness.
Yeah.
So you just, because you can't get attached if you don't.
The thing is, you can never go back to not having had sex.
Right. You can't just cut it off. Like, I had an experience in my life where this guy was like, oh yeah, when you come back to New York, we'll hang out. And I'm like, no, we won't. Because I've already seen how this story plays out and I didn't like it. Why the hell would I go back there?
I still have clients right now, and I have a client who she desperately wants to get married. She's in her mid-30s and she's Indian. And, they're sort of treated like pariahs after the age of 30, just like most of the Asians are actually treated like pariahs after the age of 30. The men don't want anything to do with them. Well, and in India, most of them are still having arranged marriages,
Oh, interesting.
which is really fascinating. It's I'm like, wow. So they don't waste any time. And these questions, these intimate questions, they ask them before they even meet them. They ask them on the phone, do you want to have kids? How many do you want to have? Do you want to get married? I mean, that's before they even meet them.
Yeah.
Because otherwise their mothers are going to arrange a marriage for them and then they have to get married. And it's not their choice. And most of them, the younger ones, they want They want their own input. They want their choice. They want to make a choice. They don't really want this arranged marriage thing. Some of the men do because it's easy for them then. Their mothers get to pick them.
Yeah.
That's terrible. I shouldn't say that. But it's kind of true. And I watched this series my client told me to watch. It's called Indian Matchmaker. And it's
Oh, I've heard about that. And yes, on Netflix.
The mothers are incredible. They like, you have to get married next week and I'm picking out the girl. And I'm like, whoa.
I always laugh. I go, I would just I think a funny show would be like American arranged marriages, because I would like if my parents had to pick a mate for me, I would be shocked at who they picked.
I know.
Like it would be the most fascinating thing.
Well, isn't it like that? What is it? The reality show, Marriage at First Sight?
Married it for, yeah.
Isn't that kind of what they do?
I think
just match them up and say, "Oh, okay, you two are getting married."
Yeah.
Well, I never watched it, so I'm just.
Yeah, I haven't really either. I feel like my mom would be like, "Oh, here's a nice guy," and he would be okay. And then my dad would be like, "No, you can't have anyone unless I have to check their net worth first." Because my dad apparently, my dad was at a game. Well, I think my dad just wants me to work and be single the rest of my life. I'm not sure, but my friend was telling me, and my dad's best friend's daughter was telling me, she goes, this is like 5 years ago. She goes, we were at a game and like your dad brought up your website or whatever, and some guy was like, oh, she's single. He goes, how much money do you make? And the guy, he said something, and the guy was like, my dad goes, nope. And I'm like, what?
So true. So true. It's very, very true. And most fathers don't want their daughters to get married. They don't want them. They don't want any.
They want to do anything. They're like, yeah.
No.
My brother's already said his daughters are 8 and 9, and he's like, yeah, I hope they're lesbians. They either don't want to be.
Exactly.
I know, because it's like, oh, you know what it's like out there because you've been the guy.
It's very funny, but this Meet 40 Men process, it is such a powerful process, because in the process of doing this thing, you stretch your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You meet people that are outside the people you normally meet, different cultures. You learn what your highest values are and are able to prioritize them. You find out what your deal breakers are, because one of the things that I tell all my clients is, if there's a deal breaker, you have to walk away. If it's truly a deal breaker, you must walk away, because if you don't, you will end up breaking up at some point, even if it's 20 years later.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to get married for 20 years and then, get another one, which most people really aren't interested in doing that. No. But if there's a deal breaker, the deal breaker will destroy it.
Yeah.
But most people don't know what their deal breakers are. So and they can be anything.
Yeah. So when you're doing these like 40 dates, you learn a lot about yourself.
Well, because you get the journal, and the journal has these columns in it, what you're attracted to, what turns you off, what's their highest value, how do they treat women or men, depending on who it is. What are they passionate about? What did you learn about yourself in the meeting with them? And what did you learn about the opposite sex in general, or the sex that you're meeting? What did you learn about that in general? And then just any notes. And you keep this journal for the entire 40 people that you meet.
And how quickly should you get through this? Because it sounds like you'd want to get it done as fast as you can.
The fastest I've had anybody do it is about 2 months. But that person was really intense. I mean, she was going out every night, meeting people for coffee, meeting people on, Match.com. And the thing about it is, people have asked me, well, isn't that dishonest if you're just going to do research? I said, no, isn't that what dating is?
It is. That's exactly what it is. And that's why I think I would do all mine as a coffee or a mocktail date. And I'm not saying cocktail, because
I've done these interviews.
Keep your figure.
Probably the shortest one I ever did was I was at TJ Maxx, and I was in the line, and the guy was a checkout guy. And in the time he checked out my 5 items, I got the answers to all the questions.
So that would count?
Sure, it counts.
Wow. So
Answers to all the questions.
you literally could be standing next to somebody in a line waiting to
Yeah.
check out anything.
Yeah, you can. But the problem is, at first, you can't do it that fast. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years and I'm pretty experienced at doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So at first, it probably takes you about an hour and a half, maybe a good conversation. And you may not get everything the first time you talk to that person. And you don't really want to carry it on, because you do want to dismiss them, because the dismissal part is what raises your self-esteem. When you dismiss somebody, it's like walking up the self-esteem stairs.
Okay, so when do you dismiss them and how?
You just say, thank you. Thank you for sharing with me. I really appreciate the time you've spent with me. I've learned so much from you, and I have to go. And they say, but what? Can't I see you again? No, I'm sorry. I'm really not. I'm not looking to date anybody. I'm not looking to meet anybody. I'm really kind of just doing research. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And then walk away.
So you do that at the end of every date?
You have to do the dismissal, though, because if you don't do the dismissal, they're still waiting for you to come back. Or
so what if you actually like the guy, though?
You can get his phone number.
Well, and just say, hey, I'm going through a research project and I got to get through it. You know, I'll call you.
I might like to talk to you again. Is there a way I can find you?
I might. Oh, I like that. I might like to talk to you again.
Yeah. You know, you get to be in charge. Remember what I said? Women do the choosing, women do the ending.
And so what if you go on a date with somebody and you're like, oh my God, this is the person. And then you have to tell them that you're doing this crazy research project. And they're like, okay, no, you're not for me. I don't want a girl that's going out with 40 dudes.
You're not for me. First of all, you're not dating 40. You're not.
Like, I just have to sit down because I want to know what I want. And I want to get married. And I want to make sure
what I want. And like I said, if it's the right one, he'll wait.
Right.
You can't do anything wrong.
This would be a great TikTok thing. I'm going to do like.
You cannot do anything wrong if it's the right guy. There's no way you can do anything wrong. You can be as crazy as you want to. And if it's the right guy, he's going to be there waiting for you.
So all the guys that leave when you have a bad day or whatever, those are just the wrong guys. That was just God protecting you.
Yeah. You don't want him anyway.
Why does it take some people so long, and I'm speaking for myself, to meet the person that their one and only, their soulmate, the one God chose for them, whatever they call it? Why?
You really want to know why?
Yeah.
Because your perception is wrong.
Mm.
What you're looking for is wrong. You haven't expanded your perception to see what's out there for you that you really want.
Right. So dating guys that look like their parents could support us, aka preppies, wasn't working for me.
I can see why.
You don't like that my mom powders my ass look? I always had a thing for it. Might have to change it up. Okay, so my perception is wrong. And also maybe I had maybe I needed to change my self-concept about myself too.
Right.
Yeah.
You need to expand your perception of who's out there for you. And you need to become who you want to be in order to attract who you really want.
Okay, expand more on that.
Well, if you're out there, looking for the powder puff guy, because that's what you think you want.
the Greenwich, Connecticut yuppie.
Yeah, that's what you're going to get.
But what if that's what I want?
But what if that's what you want, but really isn't what you want?
Oh, that's true, because I don't know. I need to start dating people of all classes.
Find out what are your highest values? What means the most to you?
Mm-hmm.
What is it you want? Because most women, and I will say this based on my 30 years of experience of doing this work, most women have no clue what they want. They have a sense of it. They say, I'll know it when I see it. I'll know it when I feel it. It's like when they go shopping for clothes. I'll know it when I put it on.
Yeah.
And it's not true.
Because I think for me, if you said you have to answer what exactly you're looking for, I'm looking for somebody who's kind, loyal, caring, believes in God, has a strong family, somebody like I can trust, somebody that feels like
How do
home.
you know? How do you know when you have that?
Well, I guess I would go back to what your client said. I haven't met it. I would feel it. I don't know.
You don't know until you know exactly. And the values part is really, really important. What
Yeah.
are your highest values, and prioritize them so that you know what's the highest value. And then they don't have to match exactly, but they have to be compatible. And you have to know what your deal breakers are. And most people don't know what their deal breakers are.
That's true. Like, what would be, I know for me, like, I'm at that weird age where I'm like, I don't think I want kids, but I don't want somebody else to tell me I don't want kids. Like, I want to make that decision for myself. So if some guy was like, oh, I already had my kids, so no kids, it'd be like, well, I might be okay with that, but I might not be okay with that. So
And
therefore, that should just be a deal breaker.
deal breakers can be anything. They literally can be anything. They can be geography.
Not taking all day to respond to a simple text message. Not
It can
like
be
writing.
geography. That I had a client who met somebody on a cruise,
Okay.
and they instantly were enamored. Okay. They were ready to get married. He lived on a farm in Indiana. She was an attorney in New York. He was never going to leave the farm, and she was never going to leave New York. That's a deal breaker.
That is a deal breaker.
Or I had a couple when I was coaching couples who came to me because they were just bickering and they couldn't figure out what was wrong. And they'd been married a long time. And it took me almost 2 months to get to the bottom of what the problem was, because they just weren't really being 100% honest. Finally, the man says to me, they were both ministers. And the man says to me, like probably the last week of the second month, and he says, I had this parishioner. They were both ministers in different churches. And he says, I have this parishioner, and I was counseling her. She's a single mom with kids. And he said, I just realized when I was talking with her that I really want a family. And I said, well, you both told me, you and your wife both told me that you decided before you got married that you didn't want kids and you never wanted to have kids. And he said, yeah, I said that. And I said, what does that mean? Yeah, I said that. He says, well, that means that I figured she'd change her mind.
A lot of people go into it thinking that they think if the marriage is good, but they don't.
And she absolutely did not. She wanted to be a minister and she had no intention of having children. And so what ended up happening is they got divorced. Mm-hmm. And he married somebody that had children. And I think they even had another baby. He was in his 50s.
Yeah. Wow.
But that's a deal breaker. And if you're going to lie about the deal breakers before you actually get involved and marry someone, well, then you're building a relationship on false pretenses.
Well, exactly. So it's better that's why I like your approach of the questions up front, because I feel like these are not, and that's why when you were telling me the questions, I started laughing, because it was like, how on earth am I going to answer these questions? But if you don't care and you see it as a project, like you're actually having deeper, more meaningful conversations with people. That's not about like, where do you live? What do you do for fun? What's the last time you wasted? It's more of a
you want to find what somebody's passionate about. You can say, what do you do when you're not working?
Yeah. That's true.
It's not, what are they passionate about? They'll eventually talk to you about what they're passionate about. If you ask them something like that, they'll tell you, well, I work on boats and I love sailing and I am building a sailboat or something, and there's the passion right there, know. So, I mean, there's a lot to it, but that second step, that's the second step of my program.
That's the
And
biggie. That is the
it's the big one.
biggie. So have you found that women who go through this process after the 40 dates
Some
typically
have to
get,
do more. Some have to do 50.
but do you find that they typically get married very quickly after? Because they can zero in on what they want and not.
What
I want to
happens
meet
is,
somebody and be married in less than a year. That's my plan.
well, I used to guarantee that if you did this program diligently, that you could be in a committed relationship within a year.
Yeah.
And you can.
Yeah, because I'm like, I don't want to dilly-dally. Like, if I meet the right person, like, why
Well,
not
what
give it?
you and I talked about originally, you just said, I really don't want to be dating. Dating is a waste of time. Well, it is a waste of time,
My person.
especially think about this. Think about this. I had clients who every time they'd meet somebody they thought was it, they would spend 6 months with them. And I'm like, no, this is not the right person. It's not the right person for you. And there was this one client I had
How did you know that though?
well, because he had all the deal breakers.
Oh,
Had
so
all her deal breakers, but
action.
she's telling me, oh no, he's perfect. He went to medical school and he's intelligent, he's educated, and he's got this great potential. And I said, potential doesn't count.
No.
Potential doesn't count. She said, I said, you want to get married and have a child within a year and a half. You want to be pregnant within a year and a half, right? Yes, because I'm 35 and I want to have 2 children at least before I'm 40. And I'm like, okay, if you want that, then you need to find a man who's looking for the same thing. You find a man who says, oh yeah, I'm educated, but oh, I'm not really going to do an internship. I think I want to do research. And he's not really in his own apartment. He's sort of couch surfing with his friends. And he doesn't really have a job. And he's doing this research project. And well, this is the guy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This person doesn't have enough money to support himself. How is he going to support you and a child or 2?
Yes, right. And so did she finally listen?
She, yeah, sort of. She basically quit working with me because she said she wasn't getting results fast enough. She said, I'm going to get married within 4 months. And she did. And then she came back to me and said that I think I made a mistake. And she did.
And she got divorced?
Not yet, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so you don't want to rush it too soon.
No, and the truth is, you really want to find somebody who's what you're looking for.
So
Don't you?
should you live with the person before you get married? Because there's like a big argument about that.
If you want to, I guess.
But I feel like okay, so they say if you have sex before marriage or if you live with somebody before marriage, statistically proven, your chances of divorce increase versus if you wait. But I'm like, I don't know who they were doing this.
Here's my feeling about it. If you meet somebody and you move in with them and you don't really know who they are, you're going to find out they're probably not what you want.
True.
If you do this process and you're really looking for someone who has well, we didn't finish the steps yet, but there's a couple more steps to this, but that you can ask for what you want and he will crawl over glass and climb mountains to give it to you.
Yes, it's the men still need to be in the provider mentality.
You have to be willing to ask for what you want because women steer the relationship. That step 3 is learn how to ask for what you want from anybody. And there's a formula for it. You acknowledge them for something you know they're capable of doing, even if they don't think so.
Okay.
You tell them directly for exactly what you want. And then you appreciate over the top when they get it for you.
And so when you say, like, if you wanted a handbag,
how about you want for your birthday? Okay. My birthday's in November, to say my birthday's in November. And I have always wanted, but you have to acknowledge first. You acknowledge first, I know how you love to make me happy. and to make the women in your life really happy. And what I'd really like more than anything for my birthday, which is a year away, 6 months away, I'd like a Gucci handbag. And you can even tell them what color, or you can say, here's what you don't say. I'm going to give you this one too. I'd like a romantic weekend. You don't say that, because what's a romantic weekend to a man? Maybe taking you to the boxing matches and out for hot dogs.
So what do you say if you want him to
I'd like
shopping and take you traveling?
I'd like to take a trip to the Bahamas and stay in a beachside resort where we can have intimate conversation and dinners and spend a lot of time together on the beach.
And then what if he says, "Oh, I found a great deal. Like, what can you afford?"
What do you mean, what can you afford?
What if he wants you to split the cost with him?
Say no.
Right? Be like, "No, that's your job."
Yeah.
Do you really say that's your job? It feels
Well, I mean, you're kind of jumping the gun a little bit, because if you're not already in a relationship with somebody, you're not going to ask somebody you're on a first date with to take you to the Bahamas.
This is true.
If you're married to the person, you can ask.
I think you would know if you're actually going to date this person, like if this is a person that's going to be splitting like costs with you, or if this is a person that's like, no,
Right.
I want to, even though you're successful, I want to provide.
But you can ask somebody. You can ask somebody for something. Ask them to get something off of a high shelf for you. And if they won't do it, they're not going to do anything for you.
So it's almost like you can test them like early in the stages. Be like,
Yeah.
Hey, would you mind? Like, I would love it if you could pick me up.
Right. Tell them you want them to call you instead of texting you. Tell them you want them to.
That's a big one. I have a 55-year-old man who was like, I don't do the phone. I just do text. And I'm like, no wonder you're divorced. I feel sorry for you.
Exactly. Anyway, you start with simple things.
Okay.
But that ask process is really good, because you want to ask for directly what you want.
Yeah.
I want you to get me yellow roses for my birthday. It's in November. And then let it go. You don't nag. You don't ask again, because they will remember. If it's the right guy, he will remember.
That's the key. Just find the right guy, because the wrong guy will cause you headaches.
Step 4 is after you've done the meet 40 and stuff, you get to start actually dating. And this is where you look for the essential ingredients of a relationship. And I have what I consider to be 3 essential ingredients. Chemistry, which is the easy part. If you have chemistry because you want to sleep with them.
Right.
Okay. And what happens is most people get married for chemistry alone. They don't look any further. And the problem with that is a lot of times you can have chemistry with people who are not what you're looking for.
Yeah, I had that.
Yeah. We've all had that. We've all had that. Okay. Yep. The second essential ingredient is compatibility. Now, the compatibility is not having the same values, the same religion, coming from the same town, blah, blah, blah. It is not that. It is actually not having any deal breakers. It's compatibility without deal breakers, meaning you're comfortable with each other, you trust each other, you know this person's going to have your back, and there are no deal breakers. And if you don't know what your deal breakers are, you can't recognize it. So in the first 40 meeting, you're identifying, when you're saying, this is what turns me off, you're identifying your deal breakers.
Yeah.
So you can actually list them by the time you're done with those 40. You can list what your deal breakers are.
Another question. Like with the apps and stuff, does a 40 date count if you're like, hey, let's do a FaceTime? Because I like to FaceTime people. I don't want to waste an outfit.
I had people do it during
COVID.
And they weren't able to meet, and they were able to do it on Facebook. You still have to meet in person.
Okay, so you're
at some point. I mean, you can do this. You can do this interview over, and you can pretty much eliminate most people. But if there's someone you think you have a match with, you still have to meet in person before you know.
In the 40 dates? Okay, because I feel like I would do it where I would
You
not,
can do a lot of
right?
dismissals.
Like, felt like I was attracted to a guy, I would be like, you're not part of my 40 dates. I'll wait till I'm done.
Right. You can go back and meet them again.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so what's the third?
Compatibility is the deal breaker thing. You cannot have a deal breaker. You can be, and like I said, deal breakers can be anything. They can be literally anything. They can be religion. They can be children. They can be money. They can be politics. They can be the way you handle money. They can be where you want to live. They can be, I want to live in an apartment. I want to live in a house. I want horses or I want cars. I mean, it can be anything. Okay, so identifying the deal breakers is an important part of the step 2 process.
Okay.
And the last essential ingredient is love with respect.
I like it.
You can love someone and not respect them. You can respect someone and not love them. But you really have to have love with respect. And I mean respect for them as a human being, respect for them as a love interest, respect for them as someone that you would consider to be part of the family. You have to have love and respect. If you are missing any one of these 3 ingredients, you're going to fail. If you're missing chemistry, you end up being roommates. If you're missing compatibility in some way, you can end up, like I did, with somebody who's 35 years younger.
Damn.
And wants children.
Oh, okay.
When I was 69, I was dating a 43-year-old who wanted kids. Who wanted kids.
Yeah, right. That's an issue.
And I actually considered it. I thought about it for about an hour.
Like adoption?
No. I could probably
work at 69.
Well, I still have a uterus. I could carry a baby, but
I
want to. And I mean, my decision was absolutely not, because it would be wrong for the child. Not so much for me, but can you imagine having a kindergartner with a 75-year-old mother?
I know. Yeah, they wouldn't really get a grow up with their mom.
It would not work.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. It wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair.
I agree. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a deal breaker. Age can be a deal breaker, Anyway, the love with respect, if you're missing that, somebody's going to cheat.
Yes, that's true. Because if you really respected somebody, you would do nothing to hurt them.
Right. So if one of those things is missing, that's the essential ingredients you're looking for when you actually get to start dating in my program. If you have done your 40 or 50 or however many it takes for you to get to the point where you say, I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And you learned how to ask for what you want, and you have the confidence to walk into a room anywhere and look around and go, I'll take that one. And
you have the confidence to approach them. That's my issue, is like, that guy, and I'm like, I can't talk to him.
Of course you can.
Reject me.
You can talk to him anytime you want to.
You're right. Usually
they think about it.
They're like, I'm in a relationship.
If you talk to somebody and they don't respond, it isn't even a reflection on you. It just means their mind is somewhere else.
Yeah. That's true.
So it's not about you. Everything is not about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. I like that.
Remember that little person who's sitting on the shoulder telling you, is he going to call me? Is he going to? Am I?
Oh, I fired that person. They're gone.
Yeah.
I sent them out to sea.
That's good. And then step 5 is really, it's the place where you're ready. You literally can go out anywhere and you look around and you go, this is what I want. I know what I want. I know what I'm looking for. And I want to see if you're who I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And you just, you know that you can walk into any room, anywhere, look around and say, I'll take that one. And you can attract that person into your life. You may not want them after you attract them, but you can attract anybody you want.
That's a good, yeah. I know I always said I had like a relationship that I know, like, if I met this person today, I think like it would have worked 100%.
Yeah.
But it was like bad timing. Like I didn't truly love myself. And we talked about it. We joke about it because it's been like 7 years, right? So like
Right.
nobody's butthurt over anything anymore. Um, and yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's amazing how you can meet the right person at the wrong time.
Yes.
And then you can't go back. Like it's done.
Well, there's a lot of that not going back.
Yeah. But
You
like, I
know,
don't know if I'd want to. I feel like, I don't know
if,
if you could, but
if you
people are
can't
like,
go
you
back,
should think about that. And I'm like, no.
you can't go back
Yeah,
and start over with someone you've already slept with. You can't.
exactly. That's true. It's
You
true.
can't go. And people who remarry each other, they keep trying to start over again. I've had clients who've been married to 4 different people, and now they're in a good relationship because they were choosing the wrong one all the time. They kept choosing the same person in different bodies.
Yeah. And it wouldn't work. That's true.
Doesn't work.
You gotta just cut all the people. Like I have one guy who basically is like wants to hang out with me when I get back to the East Coast. And I'm like, this didn't work last time. You're a jerk. Why would it happen? And I'm like, I think I have to just block his ass.
You have to
Like,
tell them, no, go away.
you're not for me. Like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send him
You
this.
don't have to make them wrong. You don't have to make them wrong. You can say, you're a great match for somebody, but not me.
Oh, I like that because then it's like you're nice, but you stick it to him. I like that.
You don't have to hurt them. You don't have to be rude to anybody. You really just want to tell them. In fact, when you're dismissing somebody, when I tell them you have to dismiss somebody, I tell them you have to tell them all the good things about them first. And then say, and yet we're not a good match.
Yeah, feel like you're so great. You're going to be an amazing match for somebody.
But it's not
It's
me.
not me.
Yeah.
Like it's
You can actually break up with somebody and they're okay with it.
Yeah.
Because you've told them, look, you have so much to offer, but it's just not what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need this. And it can be about work. It can be about children. It can be about where you want to live. It can be about lifestyle. It can be about anything. It can be about food for that matter.
Yeah.
I know that I could never be in a relationship with a vegan.
Me neither. Me neither.
I couldn't do
love
it.
my meat. You know what I mean?
It can be about food. It can be about literally about anything.
Yeah.
And if
I think
you
mine's like my biggest deal
understand,
breakers are like like God, obviously, and politics. Like if you don't get along with your family, I'm like, that's a little weird. Those are my
right,
thing.
there's issues, but I'm sure you have some that you aren't even aware of.
Yeah.
One
Like
of the
if I don't feel like I can trust you, if I feel like when I write you, I'm not sure when the hell I'm gonna hear back, that's a deal breaker. Because
right,
that causes me anxiety. I don't need you to write me back every second. That's crazy. I'm busy.
right.
But if I don't hear from you for 8 hours and you tell me, oh, it's a busy day at work and I'm working my 17 projects I'm involved in right now, like
It can happen.
a big
I
deal.
used to work in the ER, remember?
Well, that's true. It depends on their job. But if I,
Depends on the job.
well, exactly. If you're just like, hey, slammed, call you later. It's like, great. At least you
Right.
acknowledge.
I mean, that's all you have to do.
Yeah. Like I had a guy once who basically told me like, yes, we're in a relationship. That's why I love your 90-day rule. He was like, yeah, let's give this a try. Let's date. He told me everything I wanted to hear so he could get everything he wanted. And then literally, I didn't hear from him for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And then he popped back up like nothing was an issue. And I'm like, this guy needs to be banished off the face of the earth. It was like, you are and he has daughters. And I'm like, I hope they never meet a man like you. You are the worst human being on the planet. I'm going to send him this episode just so he knows. No, I'm just kidding. I won't.
Anyway, that's my program.
I
And
love that.
it works. That's the neat part about it, is that it really does work.
Yeah. And I think ladies like and men out there, situationships will no longer be an issue if you keep your legs closed for 90 days, because then you're just having a dinner date.
And
Okay.
it's not 90 days you meet somebody and then you have one date and then a month later you have another date. That 90 days doesn't count.
No. Okay. So 90 days of like, is it 90 days
It's,
from like, hey, let's do this exclusively?
it's 90 days of interaction.
Okay. So they have to call you. They basically have to text you every day for 90 days.
You have to be in some kind of relationship with them.
And I like that 90 days because I feel like all relationships typically make it or break it at 3 months. And then the next big test is 6 and then a year. So I feel like I had this guy that I dated that I thought was great, but I think he wasn't really what I wanted. He was just filled a void at that time in my life. So I just kind of glorified him. Let's put it that way. He was a nice guy, but we just were not a fit.
Right.
And like within 5 weeks, it was just done. But I didn't shed a tear. And I didn't second guess myself for 1 second because I never slept with him. No, because I never slept with him.
Mm-hmm.
Had I slept with him, there was other guys that I knew that I didn't date as long that I accidentally slept with because I thought
Yeah.
they took me on a tailspin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the key. You
The
don't
thing
sleep with
is,
them until you
can't.
know.
And
And
thus you know you want them in your life.
right. And the guys that really want you in their lives, they're not going to care. They're not going to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to go fuck other people then.
Yeah.
Then,
And
okay,
you
go
didn't
for
want them
it. Don't
anyway.
call me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you didn't want them anyway.
exactly. No, it's very true.
This process, and I really did develop it with that first client of mine, that first girl. I worked with her for
Yes.
2 years. She's a really good friend of mine now, and
Ah,
she did not marry him either. That guy is still not married. He didn't
what a
marry him.
mess.
He was a mess. But she actually ended up marrying somebody that she went to high school with that she couldn't see before we did this work. He was, outside her vision. She
Yeah.
thought she was going to marry. Her initial thing to me was, I'm going to marry an attorney because I'm a legal secretary, and I'm going to marry an attorney.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
I want someone who's educated and who's going to be,
Yeah.
have that kind of lifestyle. After we did this work, there's some wonderful stories about this thing of hers.
Yeah.
She met somebody that just blew her mind, who said, come with me to Vanuatu. And, he was not it either, but she had said yes to him. And while she was waiting for him to move his boat that he lived on in Vanuatu,
Yeah.
she met this guy that she'd gone to high school with, who had used to date her best friend and who had been to Vanuatu on the Peace Corps. And he ran into her mother and started hanging out with her because she was getting ready to sell her house and he was helping her fix up her house. And by the time the Vanuatu, we called him the pirate, called back, she was in love with the other one who she had been to high school with and couldn't even see before that time. And
Oh.
they have been married for 30 some years now.
Oh, that's adorable. Because she went through the process, she was able to easily see it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so this is the burning question that everybody has. Where can they find more information on you and even hire you as a coach?
So if they want to talk to me,
Okay.
you go to timewithsusan.com and make an appointment.
Perfect.
For free.
Timewithsusan.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I have a website. I have susansheppard.com and I also have gettingwhatyouvant.com.
Okay.
There's
Perfect.
stuff on both of them. I'm in the process of combining them, but I have an IT guy who takes his time and
Yeah.
it might take another 3 years before that's done. So I just give both.
Okay.
But if anybody would like to have a conversation with me, I'm happy to have a conversation and find out where you're at and if there's a way that I can help. And if I don't think I can help, I will tell you I
Yeah.
can't help.
Yeah. No, and that's great. You want somebody who's honest like that.
Time
So,
with Susan takes you to my calendar appointments. And
okay.
you make an appointment to talk to me.
Okay, perfect. So yes, if you guys are in need of some relationship coaching or advice, do that. Pick up her books as well. Go on these 40 date things. I feel like I need to start this stuff now. I don't like to put on makeup every day, but I might just have to. But I'm not dating these guys, so actually I could go
You
natural.
don't care.
I don't care. You're right. I could just go from the gym and be like, hey, meet me at Jamba Juice. It's great.
Exactly.
I need a juice anyways.
Remember, the most important mindset of the Meet 40 is that you don't care what they think about you.
Because your intention is not to date any of these guys.
No, you are just doing research.
I like that.
And you want to find out about them. You want to know, what kind of a man are you? What do you think about being a man? What does being a man mean to you? You ask those kind of questions.
And if they try to ask you questions back, you kind of flip it back.
You can answer them briefly, but don't go into a lot of, let me tell you my life story, because that's not what this is about.
I like that. Okay. And then you could do
You're in charge.
You could easily grab a homeless person off the street and be like, hey, you want to have coffee?
Let me tell you, homeless people, there are some amazing people that are homeless on the street.
I'm sure, because it's like,
I've met so many of them. PhDs, people who've just dropped out of society, people who had drug habits, who are over their drug habits, but people who just had financial crisis and then ended up on the street because they didn't have a place to live. There are some amazing people out there on the street.
I know. Wow. I don't know, but yeah, that'd be interesting to have.
I've had conversation with some amazing homeless people.
Wow.
But you want to be safe about it. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go down the row and sit on the curb with them. Don't do that.
Yes, this is true. So now I got to look for like every type of man I would never, ever, ever date.
You want to look at the ones that you absolutely said I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And I don't mean drug addicts. I mean, if they're criminals or something like that. But let's just say
the nice guy in a wheelchair.
Right.
That would be
one of my clients went out with a midget. And she said she liked him so much. She said he was so good. He was so wonderful. And I really, really liked him. But she said the problem was that every time I held his hand, I felt like I was holding the hand of a child, and I lost it.
Yeah.
I just couldn't adapt to it. And she said, I felt so bad because I really liked him.
Yeah.
So, but you have to stretch. You really have to stretch. You have to go way outside your comfort zone. People that you normally would not have been attracted to. And, like a cowboy or somebody who weighs 500 pounds or somebody who's, I can't, a professional athlete with a huge ego or,
Yeah, I actually have
a dock worker.
There with a coach. I never go out with a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I married a coach.
Yeah. This is like an NFL coach?
A wrestling coach.
Oh.
Last wrestling coach.
Ah. Are you still married?
Oh no, he's long gone. He died a long time ago.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, a long time ago. It was 1999, so
Yeah, but still. Well, at least he can be your guardian angel now, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, this was
a great conversation. What a fun conversation we're having.
I know. I can't wait to start my 40 dates for you single people out there, men and women. Do it. I encourage you. Pick up her books. Check out her website, SusanSheppard.com. If you want to book a call, timewithsusan.com. And yeah, this is amazing.
Books are on Amazon, or you can get them from me off my website.
Perfect. Okay, so Amazon or on her website at SusanSheppard.com. And just remember, there are no such thing as situationships. You allow it to happen. So keep your legs closed until you get what you want. Thank you so much for being a guest on this episode of Next to Madison. And thank you wherever you all are listening. We appreciate it. I can't keep doing this unless you guys are tuning in. So I appreciate and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. We continue to grow bigger and better every week on the podcast that makes you happier, healthier, and wealthier. So we will see you next time to find out who's next.
Hey, your host here, Madison Malloy. Please make sure to subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, and please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can email us at contact@nexttomadison.com. I thank you again for listening. Bye.